to the second edition of Inside Bama State Sports Live in the Hive. I'm your host, Travis Strom, joined by our athletic director, Ms. Jennifer Lynn Williams. And Jen, good to have you with us again this week. And it's been a little bit of a whirlwind over the last few weeks with everything going on here in the fall.
Yeah, fall is always a busy time for us. It's when we kick off the year, and we have teams that have been super active the past couple of weeks. We had a very festive weekend this past weekend with our football team. Prior to that, soccer kicking off that Friday with their first home conference game, and then a football game on Saturday, then soccer and volleyball Sunday, and then volleyball again on Monday. So we've been busy.
Let's switch topics a little bit. Let's take it off the field for a little while. It's been a little bit of a busy time off the field as well, trying to bring in some new coaches to keep winning programs where they're at. You've got softball and golf that you field. Let's start with golf first. Let's start with Quincy Hurd. He's coming back to Montgomery native. People may not know he's a Montgomery native because he's been out on the West Coast for 31 years in Portland thanks to the U.S. Navy. You've had a chance to sit down and talk with him. Just tell us a little bit about Quincy, and then we'll talk about his background a little bit.
Coach Hurd, very decorated golfer, very respected with the PGA. His mom, stepdad, both Alabama State grads. His mom is actually an adjunct on our campus now, but just a coach who brings a huge amount of success, that know how to win, that connectivity, because we always talk about life after sport. And so his connections in the golf world is going to be a tremendous asset to not only our golf student athletes, but to anyone who wants to get connected to the PGA and the LPGA. So we're excited. I know our young men and women are super excited. They actually surprised Coach Hurd at the airport with signs to greet him, to welcome him back. I don't want to say welcome him to Montgomery, but to welcome him back. And, they had a really good showing. The women were on the road Sunday, competed Sunday and Monday, and they fared very well in their first official tournament of the year.
For those of you that don't know, Coach Hurd is a native of Montgomery, spent 31 years out on the West Coast in Portland, based mostly with the U.S. Navy, and then picked up golf at a later age. He'll be the first to tell you that he doesn't play golf every day, but when he does shoot, he shoots in the low 60s and in the low 70s. So Coach Hurd is one of those guys that will turn our programs around. Programs that have won conference championships, programs that have finished in the top 2 in the last 7-8 years on both sides.
Yeah, and not only, his ability to teach our young men and women the sport of golf, but to be able to groom and mentor them and, again, prepare them for life after sport. He runs a very successful nonprofit on the West Coast that we've been talking about some things that we can bring in initiatives to be able to connect the community here in Montgomery. We talk about communiversity, and he gets it. We want the community to be involved and to be a part of all of our programs, but to really have our golf team out in the community, because again, sport brings people together, and we want to look at hosting some golf tournaments, sponsoring golf tournaments through our department. And he has been very passionate talking about his plan for our golf program.
Let's switch topics a little bit. Let's get off the golf course now. Let's get on the track where our student athletes run and won 5 out of 6 of the championships possible last year. Richie Bean, most successful coach in SWAC history, brings in another guy, another coach that can come in and help with that championship pedigree. Garfield Ellenwood II comes from North Carolina A&T, was at Mississippi State before that, was at Bethune-Cookman before that, won conference titles at all of those schools. Also on the international scene, he coaches several top 10 athletes in the world in the hurdles, and sprints have been one of our mainstays here at track. So track just gets richer with the addition of the new assistant coach.
Yeah, he told me I can call him Coach G. So Coach G, excited to have him. We hated to see Coach Ryan go, but we understood, he's a West Coast guy, an opportunity opened up, and we always want our assistants and our coaches, if you want to be closer to home, as long as you're articulating that to your head coach or your sport administrator, we support that. But Coach Bean was able to do a really good job with finding Coach Chi and giving him that opportunity, that offer to come here. I don't see us losing a beat. If you look at what North Carolina A&T has been able to do, I'm that experience with their sprinters and runners, that's going to come, that same energy he's going to bring to our student athletes. I remember, the successes that Bethune had under his leadership as well. So I'm excited to have Coach G added to our program, and I only see us going up from here. We've been we've been very dominant, in our track and field program, and I want to see our men repeat. I want to see that consistency, and I feel like we have some folks, and after talking to both Coach G and Coach Bean, that they can look at the Olympics. They can have the aspirations of being able to run on a level outside of the NCAA, but that pro level, and that's what we're going to get by adding Coach G to our program.
Now we switch again. Now we go from one winning program to another, and then finally to a third. You feel with another head coach in Todd Bradley, coming from the West Coast from Fresno State. Not only was he at Fresno State, but he was a head coach at Campbell, won 145 games during his tenure there, spent some time in Incarnate Word. But he inherits a program that has been to 5 championship games in a row and won 2 out of the last 5, tied with Texas Southern for the most championships in that 5-year span.
Yes, first, want to thank Coach Chris. She did a phenomenal job with our softball program. Again, we hate to see people go, but, Coach Chris and I talked, and her goal is to be a head coach at the Power 5. And this was a step, an opportunity. It presented itself really, really late in the season and start of our academic year. But surprisingly, we had a very good pool for softball, that program. And people know that we have a very, very good softball program. The facilities here are great, and they wanted to be a part of it. So our pool for applicants was very, very strong. But Coach Bradley, he stood out as the top candidate for that position, and we're extremely excited to have him join us. He's excited, and the girls are excited. They have their coach. They're going to participate in their fall program, their fall ball, But, Coach left us in a very good situation. And what we talked to Coach Bradley about, it's not about being the best in the SWAC. We've shown that we can consistently be at the top in the SWAC. We want to look at now on that regional national level. How many FCS opponents are we beating? We don't want to just show up to a Troy or a Jacksonville State or a Sanford. We want to go in there and be able to consistently beat those teams, because that's where we feel our softball program could be, and then be competitive in the regional. So that's kind of the conversations we've had with Coach Bradley, and he's excited. We're looking to fill his staff, but we're moving in that direction.
Before we talk about what everybody wants to talk about, which is Magic City, because it's in a couple of weeks, let's talk about some exciting news from the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And I'll just put the numbers out there, and then we'll tell everybody at home who it is. 895 points in 2 years, 16.1 points a game for average for those 2 years, 207 rebounds. Those are all 2 years because of this student athlete, now coach, played after junior college. This coach has now spent 20-plus years at an institution where she started out as an assistant coach, as a GA and assistant coach, now head coach, 300 career wins. Frida Freeman Jackson becomes the 3rd member in the last 3 years, the 19th member overall of the Alabama State Athletic Department to be named to the SWAC Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we are so excited. And I want to thank you, Travis. We've worked together on the Hall of Fame as a team, and we are very passionate and very diligent about getting our folks nominated and into the SWAC Hall of Fame. And Coach Jackson was extremely deserving of this honor. When you look at her track record, what she's accomplished, not only as a coach but as a player in this conference, it was only right that she be named to this year's Hall of Fame class. We're excited. We actually told her today, had my individual meetings with our coaches today, and was able to sit Coach Jackson down. We actually scared her first, and she thought she was in trouble, but then my acting skills are pretty good, actually. And so then we broke the news and told her that she was inducted and is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and she was ecstatic.
Just 2 years ago, she sat out in the audience where Shamika Jackson was getting inducted. Now she gets to step up to the podium. One of 3 active coaches now on staff herself, Lewis Jackson and Steve Rogers, all in the Hall of Fame. We're still awaiting word from the SWAC if it's the first husband-wife duo to be named to the Hall of Fame. Hopefully we'll have that in the next few weeks before everything goes live in public, before she gives her speech. But the biggest thing now is on the schedule. We've still got all kinds of events. We've still got conference championships. We've still got games going on with other teams. But of course, everybody looks at the calendar. When you get to October, they focus on one date, and it's the Magic City Classic. Just talk about the Magic City Classic, what it means to Alabama State and what it means to Birmingham.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like the Magic City Classic. I've been a part of a lot of classics. I've been a part of a lot of Power 5 football games and basketball games as a student athlete, administrator. But the Magic City Classic is special. You talk about going to a place where you have, 70,000 people inside the stadium, another 100 outside the stadium. It's a sight like no other, and I tell people, it's really it's not a sprint during that week. It's really a marathon. You have to have a pace because events really kick off, for us that Wednesday with the press conference, but then there's so many other events for our team, our staff, our president, and so it just brings people together. It's really family. When you look at the economic impact to the city of Birmingham, it's upwards of 24 million, for that weekend. Don't quote me on those numbers, but yes, it's a lot. So, to be able to come and play your rival, a halfway position from, each, you meet in the middle there, and you take it off the gridiron. People are just excited. The fans, the alums, the players, and the classic and the staff around that puts the class, they do a really good job. I know they incorporated a trip to the museum. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of fun. I think they go into the hospital. There are a lot of things for our players, and I tell them, enjoy that experience. But when it comes time that Saturday at 2:30, it's time to really turn it up a notch, because in rivalry games, as we know, anything can happen. And, this is a big one for us. Alabama A&M, they got us last year. We want to come out victorious. Our players, and you try to keep them even keel, because you don't want them to lose sight on other games, just looking to the Magic City, because we have a really good, Jackson's been down they've been down, but it's their homecoming. And they want to win too, so you can't overlook this game in front of us to get to the Classic. But the Classic is something, if you haven't experienced, I tell you to go. I'm praying for good weather. It's been hot thus far. Hope it keeps that same energy going into the Classic. But it's a great environment, family friendly. 2 Chainz is going to be there. He's in Alabama State. He was a player on our basketball team. You have Shaquille O'Neal as the ambassador. Just a lot of activities and events. And then the game is the highlight.
Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks, and when we talk about that in 2 weeks, we'll talk about all the events leading up to Magic City with 2 Chainz in postgame, with Shaquille O'Neal being the ambassador, also a relative of one of our redshirt freshmen this year. So Alabama State, a lot of ties, but we want to thank you for joining us again today. When we come back in 2 weeks, we'll have a lot to talk about as we gear up for the Magic City Classic. That'll probably be what the entire show is about. But make sure you check out BamaStateSports.com for all of your schedule needs. You've got championship events coming up. Cross country will be running in a couple weeks in Clinton, Mississippi for the SWAC Championship. Women look to repeat. Men look to climb to the top of the ladder. Until then, until next time.